Good afternoon, MASC. It's good to see you again. We are continuing our presentations and thoughts on Mental Health Awareness Month, and we've been so fortunate to talk to several different people and share some ideas and some tips and tricks over the last couple of weeks. But this week, we especially want to focus on our advisors. I think sometimes as advisors and as adults, we are so busy taking care of other people that we forget how important it is to take care of ourselves. And we definitely want you to remember that you can't take care of other people if you're not taking care of yourself first. So our special guest this afternoon is someone that I love dearly. Jennifer Blansett is our camp nurse. We lovingly call her Nurse Jen. And I've known Nurse Jen for a long, long time because she's an MASC kid, MASC maid through and through, and actually was a JC at our summer workshop and now comes back. And I'm going to let her talk about that for just a minute, but she comes back every summer to serve as our camp nurse. So Jen, tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up and how you got involved with MASC and now what you're doing now.
Sure, thanks. MASC has been a huge part of my life. I moved around a lot as a younger kid, and my parents ended up coming to Missouri when I was in high school. And one of the quickest ways that I found to kind of network and make friends was through student council. And I was lucky enough to be plugged into Webb City High School's student council program, and they believed very strongly in sending kids to the summer leadership workshop. So I attended that level 1 and level 2 in 98 and 99. And then I was a JC in the year 2000, so 20 years ago. I became a nurse after high school, and I heard kind of through the chain of communication that you were looking for some more consistent help than what you had. And I had been indebted to what MASC had done for me as a young person, and really wanted to give back, but also selfishly just really wanted to continue the magic. So I think I've been coming back as the nurse for 11 years now. I think last year was year 10.
For sure. I was going to say, I know at least 10 years for sure, because I've been doing MASC forever, but definitely the last 10 years, working with you has made our lives so much easier at camp. You know, what you bring to us and to our delegates has been so important. And I never have to worry when a decision has to be made about a student's health or something is happening with a kid, that you'll be right there to help us make those professional decisions that I've watched you make many, many times. So thank you for what you do for us during the summer, but also thank you for agreeing to be with us today. Your background has been, you are a registered nurse.
Right.
But you also have worked in the mental health field as far as your nursing is concerned. So you are someone I know that can bring some really good information to us today for our advisors. You know, Jen, when we were talking earlier, you had mentioned specifically about sleep and the importance of sleep. And so I guess I really want to know from you, you obviously think that a person's sleep affects their mental health. So could you start out by talking about that just for a little bit, and what you mean by that and why it's important?
Sure, absolutely. I wanted something relatively small and simple. I know that life is really heavy right now and there's a lot of uncertainties, and we don't always have control over what our daytime looks like. There's just a lot of concerns on the plate. And I wanted to kind of answer the question of like, what is one thing I could do to improve my mental health? And the single answer that just kept on coming back to mind was the importance of good quality sleep. If you're familiar with the fight or flight response, that's adrenal response that gets our bodies going, helps us get through problems. But there's another component of that that's called rest and digest. So it's kind of the opposite side of our nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in rest and digest mode, our body is healing itself, it's restoring its chemical balances, it's forming new brain connections to help us process the information we gathered from that day and to make memory. And also, with that chemical restoration affects our mood the following day. If you've ever noticed after really poor quality sleep night or very little sleep, you just kind of feel tired and cranky and out of sorts. But the problem is a lot bigger than that. And so I wanted to just kind of really focus on how physiologically sleep helps us kind of get back on track.
Good deal. Well, I totally agree with you. And I've said for many years, and you know this because you work with me in the office, I'm a poor sleeper. My brain feels like it never stops and it's constantly going. And so I definitely need to hear your message today. And I'm wondering if you could share with us really what is quality sleep? Like, what does that look like? What does that mean? And how can a person help themselves?
Sure. The gold standard is 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep. And I feel like that's laughable for a lot of us. The amount of times that I get 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep is unfortunately really low. But the nice thing is that any improvement that we can make in our sleep is a step in the right direction. And it's maybe one more brain connection that's in place, or one more chemical restoration that helps us better set up for problem solving the next day, or managing some anxiety and depression symptoms. When those chemicals are at least a little bit more in balance, then we can handle things a little bit better.
You know, I'm thinking not only about advisors, but also kids. So often we see kids who don't get enough sleep, or those advisors who might have not only teenagers in their homes who are sleeping either way too much or not enough, but also they have toddlers and small children who don't sleep as well. And so that pattern, even with children, very definitely affects parents and adults in homes as well. Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely. There's so many things, so many things that I know everybody is dealing with that are sometimes not within our control. So any improvement you can make is for the better.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned 8 hours of sleep, and quite honestly, I can't remember the last time I had true uninterrupted 8 hours of sleep. But I do try to sleep in a little bit, or I stay on a schedule. And I bet you've got some suggestions for people that might help them get better sleep or get some uninterrupted sleep. Do you have some ideas to help?
I do. For a little history, I actually taught this as a class, sleep hygiene, to a group of new grad nurses, because they're also dealing with a lot of stress in their first year of their career. And like this discussion is about, they will only be able to care for other people if they're truly caring for themselves too. So I went through that class and jotted down some notes.
Good for you.
So I had kind of 6 main tips to share. So one is a consistent bedtime routine, and a consistent bedtime, if at all possible. Like you mentioned, sleeping in is a good way to kind of catch a few hours, but it is really important as much as possible to be going to bed at the same time and be waking up at the same time, whether it's a work day or not. The consistency in our body helps us set up for good patterns. The next best thing is having a quiet and dark and relaxing environment to sleep in. Make sure wherever you're sleeping, your bedroom, your living room, couch, whatever it is quiet and dark. And we can't always control a lot of the noises and sounds around us.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things, and actually something I do when my sleep, I can tell it's like going down in quality, are these little silicone earplugs. They're
Ooh.
used by swimmers to help
Uh,
keep water out of their ears, and they
okay.
don't go all the way in the canal like foam
Uh-huh.
does, and they don't block out as much noise. So I can still set an alarm and hear it. I can still hear my phone ring, but all of the little other noises in the house get blocked out. And it
Nice.
actually helps me sleep better than any sleep aid that I have.
Very good.
Um, Another point, I don't know if you've heard much about the effect of blue light versus warmer lights on our sleep.
Mhm.
That blue light is similar to daylight, so it's a key to our brain to stay awake. And
Mhm.
the longer that we're exposed to that, the longer into the evening that we're exposed to that, the more our brains are being told that it's still daytime and it's not time for rest yet. So it's actually harder to get to sleep if you're not um, cutting that out.
Okay.
I have all of my electronics set to, I think it's night mode,
Mhm.
where it automatically changes the color of my laptop or my cell phone or anything else at a certain time. It'll start shifting it to warm light, and I do the same thing around my house. Any kind of blue, like fluorescent lights or anything like that, are turned off through the evening, and I only have those warm light bulbs around.
Nice.
So
Good. Good suggestion. I mean, I always hear about the screen thing, but not thinking about your light bulbs and how those things can affect you as well.
mhm,
Good.
mhm.
Okay.
If you're in the market for spending money on cool technology, there are Philips light hue bulbs and some other smart bulbs that you can set through an app on your phone to change colors at certain times of the day. So
Ooh.
you can get really techie with it too. Another piece is what you're eating and drinking in the hours before sleep. Um, Anything that your body is having to work really hard on is going to keep you in a lighter phase of sleep. Um, and that especially goes for alcohol. If as advisors and as adults we're consuming alcohol in the hours before bedtime,
Mhm.
it can help us fall asleep better. But the way that our body processes it will keep us in a lighter stage and a less quality of sleep for the duration. So it actually makes it more difficult to stay asleep.
Really?
Yeah.
And
So it can help you get to sleep, but it'll cause problems later in the night.
keeping you sleeping. Very good. Okay.
Mhm. And then another piece that's just not necessarily around bedtime, but what you're doing during the day. If you are getting that good blue light exposure to sunlight, it's reinforcing that sleep and wake cycle. And if you're exercising, you have physical activity, you're actually physically wearing your body out in some way, it can set you up for better rest that night too, because you're tired and you're ready for rest.
So it's a good idea to maybe do a little exercise or go for a walk or use the energy that's in your body to get yourself ready for rest.
Absolutely. Yep.
Good. Good. I find myself doing that with my grandchildren sometimes. My granddaughter spent the night last night, and I wanted her to do some things so that she
Mhm.
would be ready for bed. For
Exactly. Yeah, we apply that to our kids and to our toddlers, and we rarely think about it's still important for us and well into adulthood too.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, all of the things that you did mention are things that most definitely, if we have, our middle level and our teens are listening to this, all of the suggestions that you made would be perfect for them as well. Using that energy during the daytime to get your body ready and having a scheduled sleep time. I understand that a lot of teenagers right now are staying up way later than what they normally would because they don't have to be on a schedule during the daytime.
Mhm.
But keeping that schedule would certainly be important. Um, I'm kind of guilty, Jen, and you know this because of camp. I usually play a radio and real light music when I'm getting ready for bed, and then I just leave it on.
Mhm.
But maybe I should set a timer on my Alexa or to make sure that that goes off. Would you say that it's okay to go to sleep to music, but then maybe it should turn off later?
Mhm. Absolutely. whether it's light music and something to relax you and get to sleep,
Mhm.
or even I have a app called Insight Timer that is a huge library of millions of guided meditations, and
Mhm.
there's a whole section on sleep, and it's exercises once you're lying in bed about tensing and relaxing certain areas of the body, and it it plays for, maybe it's a 20-minute session, maybe it's a 30-minute session, but at the end of that, it just goes quiet and stops. So it can help you fall asleep. And then, yeah, the quietness for the duration is what's most important.
Important. And tell me the name of that again. Insight
Insight Timer,
Timer.
and
Okay,
it has, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it has like a little bowl.
got it.
It's one of my most
Got it.
often used apps. It's right next to Facebook and Insta and everything else. It really is something that I don't necessarily use it every night, but when I've noticed I've had more stress than usual or poorer sleep for a night or two, and I know I don't want to fall into that pattern of really bad sleep, because it does tend to escalate. I go ahead and start pulling out all the big guns that I can to try to get myself to
Right.
sleep all day there.
Well, and somebody like you who's been medically trained, and I know there have been lots of times when you have had to sleep during the day because your shifts have been at night.
Mhm.
You certainly have had to take advantage of all these kinds of things to maintain not only your mental health, but also be rested to be able to do your job. And
Exactly.
and that's, I think, the message that we want to share with especially our advisors today, is that it's so important truly to take care of yourself so that you can do your job or you can take care of yourself. And you started out saying that when we don't get sleep, many times it makes us cranky, or we tend to overreact to things. And with all the stresses that are going on right now, this one thing that we can take care of could certainly make a difference in how we feel.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I find that I cry really easily when I'm tired, and
Yeah.
that just doesn't help anybody around me. It's a huge piece of my mental health to get better sleep than that. And I think you've probably laid witness to that at camp a couple times.
We've propped each other up a couple of times for
Yeah.
sure. That's right. That's right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being with us today. You've given us some really great ideas to think about and resources. And when we post this, always in our comments, we will put the app suggestion that you gave us so that people would know that that is something maybe that they could look at.
Mhm.
And we're not having camp this summer, so I won't get to see you in person, but I certainly hope that you take care of yourself and stay healthy and well, and looking forward to 2021 when
Yes.
you'll be back at camp with us again. Thank you so much, Jen. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. Thanks.